All right, kiddos, head for the hills. Adult types, y'all go to 1 Corinthians 13. Catch up with me there. Like I said, we're going to be doing a series called Love Does. I think sometimes we think love is, and we say love is this and love is this, and it describes love and describes love. That's not what Paul was doing. Paul was not trying to describe what love is. He was trying to tell you what you should do if you are a loving person. All right? So I want us to just right off the bat get that, because love doesn't just sit there and have emotion. It has action to it. All right? And if it's just emotion, John tells us it's meaningless, and Paul will tell us the same thing. We're going to be talking about patience today. Has anybody ever prayed for patience? Has anybody ever regretted praying for patience? All right, that God goes, all right, I'll dance with that. We can do a little bit of that. All right, you should try preaching on patience and see what God does in your life. All right, because this week has been an interesting week, because you come off Christmas, which is just the fulfillment of love and beauty, and just your patience is filled up with after Christmas, right? No anxiety whatsoever, no lack of patience anywhere. So we come off Christmas, and we have this great idea, hey, let's drive together to Atlanta, Georgia, with the family, all right, with 3 teenagers in a car, all right? So I'm driving all the way to Atlanta. We stopped in Jackson. We thought, let's spend the night in a hotel. Well, we've got our dog with us. We got Lincoln with us, all right? So don't tell anybody, but at the Hampton Inn, just north of Jackson, you're not supposed to have dogs, all right? But we've got the dog with us. Well, I'm thinking, we'll just leave him in the car. We got the little condo thing. We'll put it in the car. He can just live in there. Well, it's getting down to like 40 degrees. I'm like, he'll be a little Lincoln sickle in the morning. So I stuff Lincoln into my backpack, put him on my back, and I'm walking up the stairs, and I can hear him kind of flopping around up here. So I'm trying to get into the hotel room quietly, walking up the stairs, getting him into the room. 3 teenage kids, plus Ashley in the mix as well, just filling me up with patience, right? I'm getting the exercise here. So we get to Passion Conference. We finally get there. And I'm in a room with 3,000 adults, and we're supposed to be doing all this volunteer work. Well, my job is and I've done this for the last 3 or 4 years now, is logistics. And so I'm in charge of making sure lunches get to all the people while they sit in their seats, all right? So I've got about 700 students in my section, and my job is to make sure all of them get a Jason's Deli box lunch, and do all this within 20 minutes, okay? Now, again, patience is working here. Now, I have a crew. I have a crew of people who their job, they're called the touch team, all right? And the touch team just sits with the kids, hangs out with the kids, loves on the kids, talks to the kids, just has a blast the whole time of the conference. Well, these are supposed to be the people that I tell them, do this, and they're supposed to go, we would love to do that. We would love to do exactly the way you've designed this. But God gives us a thing called opinions. Anybody familiar with these? Opinions, agendas? All right. So I have a wonderful group of ladies with me who just willfully submitted to me with every request I made of them. Anyway, so I'm doing this. We get the lunches, we get them served, we do all this stuff. And you got to understand, I'm working on about 2 hours sleep at this point, because I got up at 5 trying to get all the lunches in place. So what happens to your patience when that sleep drops a little bit? Anybody struggle with this? Okay, so that was Tuesday. Good night. Feels like that was like 3 years ago. All right, so we're going through all this. We finally get everybody served. I'm out. I'm done. I got to get away from all this. So I head back out to Mom's house. We get there and we're having dinner. I'm thinking, we'll just have a nice dinner, nice quiet dinner at this restaurant. This restaurant they love. Ashley and the kids love this place, a little Japanese. I'm not a big Japanese guy. So we're sitting there, and we put our order in. And we sit there, and then we sit there some more. And about, 45 minutes, at least 45 minutes, they start to bring us, it's kind of like at Waffle House, here's some toast. Oh, here's some eggs that you ate. Well, here's a waffle. Okay, now I have my whole meal after like 3 different courses. Y'all with me on this? Y'all don't eat Waffle House. Y'all are nice people, all right? So we wait about 45 minutes to an hour, and I'm just sitting there, and my mind's going, because I'm thinking, I got to preach on patience, and God's going, you're going to live patience all week long. So I am full and then we get to drive home on Friday, and God thought, you know what? Rain would really help you develop patience as you drive home, all right? And not only rain, but we go through Birmingham, Alabama, and God decides, let's really make it rain in the middle of downtown Birmingham right around lunch. And so we finally got home, and I did nothing yesterday. Literally nothing. I left the house to go get milk. That was it. That was the extent of my day, so I could build up. So don't pray for patience. And if you can help it, don't preach on patience, all right? So you'll get a full week out of this. But y'all read with me in 1 Corinthians 13. And context real quick. The Corinthian church was like scary church, all right? To me, they probably met in a bar somewhere, all right? They had former strippers in the group, all right? They had tax collectors. They had people that used to be idolatrous temple priest guys. I mean, you name it, they had it in the mix. Fun church, all right? Because Corinth was kind of like, you throw Las Vegas and New Orleans and Atlantic City in with some really bad people, all right? That's kind of Corinth right there, okay? So it's rough, okay? And Paul's trying to do a church in the middle of all this. Like I said, they probably met in a bar somewhere, all right? And so 1 Corinthians, he's trying to kind of say, all right, here's how you run a church, guys. Here's how you do this thing. So he gets to 13, or he gets into 12, and he talks about the giving of gifts, that the Holy Spirit is going to give each of you a type of gift, a gifting, and a beautifully, divinely inspired gifting. And your job is to come to the bar or come to the wherever we're meeting and use those gifts to encourage and build up one another, all right? So this is sort of the context. So in 13, it says this, because they're all going, well, what gift do I have? What gift do I have? And he says, here, hold on a second. If I speak human or angelic languages, if I speak in tongues, if God goes, I'm going to give you the gift of speaking in tongues so you can speak to people who do not speak your language. If I have that gifting, but I do not have love, I am a sounding gong or a clanging cymbal. I remember when Holland was 2, somebody gave her the bucket drum full of percussion instruments. I still don't like those people, all right? They didn't, I know. It was some of our old college students. I'm like, paybacks. They have 4 kids now. I still haven't talked to them. Anyway, so they give Holland this bucket of percussion instruments, and I'm going, oh, please, God, give me patience. And he did, because she kept playing them over and over and over. So I am a sounding gong or a clanging cymbal in the hand of a 2-year-old child. So if I can speak eloquently in these tongues, but I don't love people with that gifting, I'm just noise. Verse 2, if I have the gift of prophecy is simply this. You say, thus saith the Lord, that God gives you a word and you speak it to other people. If I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so that I can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. I can speak prophecy. I have all knowledge, all wisdom, all these things. I can move. No, you're nothing if you don't have love. If you don't do it with love, you're absolutely nothing. Verse 3, and if I donate all my goods to feed the poor, and if I give my body over in order to boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. You see, the emptiness is there, that if I'm not loving, if I'm not utilizing all this gifting and whatever gifting I've been given, and I'm not loving people with that, actively loving, not sitting around going, I sure love Rex. Not going to say anything to him, not going to encourage him, not going to do anything for him. I'm just going to sit here and love on him. It's meaningless. It has no effect whatsoever on the people around you. What are you doing to express this? And then he rolls into this. Love is patient. Now, again, these are verbs, not adjectives, all right? So when he says this, love patience, the translation is suffers long. Love suffers long. Love is kind. Love kinds. I don't know how you turn that into a verb, all right? We'll learn it next week. Love does not envy. It is not boastful. It is not conceited. It does not act improperly, is not selfish, and is not provoked, and does not keep a record of wrongs. You wait 6 weeks from now. Some of y'all need to be here for that one, I think, all right? Love finds no joy in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. This is what we're going to go through for the next couple of weeks, right up to Easter. We're going to go through each one of these characteristics and each of these verbs so that we understand what it is God's saying we need to be about doing. So let's think through this. What does it mean to be patient? Like I said, the translation, the Greek word is macrothumos. Everybody say macro? Thumos. Macro means what? Big picture, right? Macro versus micro, okay? So big picture, big, all right? Thumos, it's the word, it can mean wrath, it can mean passion, it can mean this idea of suffering or anger, this building up anger inside over a long period of time, all right? Any parents in the room understand this emotion? This building up, this internal heat. The thumos, it actually we get our word, a little bit of our word for heat from this. This burning starts to hear and it starts to come up, and all of a sudden, if you're not careful, it goes shooting out of your mouth. Amen? Everybody with me? This is that thumos, and it means to extend this thing over a long period of time. So parents, I know you're with me, all right? I have 3 teenagers, all right? I've been in this game, all right? Y'all know what I'm saying. Husbands. Now, I'm not saying your wife may tend to be late or may tend to take a little more time than you do to get ready, but that generally speaking, all right, that can happen sometimes. It doesn't happen at our house, right? Never. Never, never. Ashley does an amazing job of building patience in me. I'll just say that. She makes me a loving, loving person, all right? But here's the thing. Husbands, careful, because I think her building patience in me is nothing compared to what I do in her life. Amen? Of course. Look, ours might be a little trivial. Okay, what time did you get somewhere? You may have to wait on the couch going, okay, I've been ready. We're going to be late. We're going to be late. We're going to be late. Some of y'all are late all the time. Somebody said the great way to cure being impatient is just be late wherever you go. If you're the one that's late, you're not going to be impatient anymore, right? I don't think that's the solution we're looking for. But here's the thing. Relationships take patience. All relationships take patience. You know why? And listen carefully. Because you're not always going to get your way. Amen? Because you see, dating relationships are tough enough, right? I always say the best way to ruin a great dating relationship is to get married. You laugh because it's true. And the best way to ruin a great marriage is to have kids. Because it makes it so much harder, doesn't it? It makes so much more difficult because you have to increase your patience in all this, all right? And I say that somewhat jokingly, but at the same time, I'm going, I know, yeah. Because it does take time. It does take patience. It takes love. It takes love to build these relationships. So how do you react? How do you react when you have to wait or when you have to suffer long and you have to sit there and you have to just endure whatever it is and you have to be patient with someone? How do you react to that? How do you react when you don't get your way? Most of us do not do that very well. Let's fix that today. I want to give you a very simple reason why you want to fix that, why you need to fix that. All right? Come over here to Matthew 18 with me. Jesus tells a parable. Peter has a bright idea to ask Jesus a question and try to look pious when he asks this question. Generally not a good idea. If you're trying to brag, you're trying to show off by asking. You ever been in class? Some of y'all still students, all right? You've been in class where that one guy asks the question. This is what I tell people. People ask me all the time, what'd you learn in seminary? I learned not so much from the professor, but from that guy in the class asking that question and then letting the professor rip them to shreds, all right? Because that guy wants to ask that question because he's trying to do what? Show everybody how smart he is, all right? And the professor just rips him to shreds right in the middle of class, and you go, okay, note to self, don't ask that question. Don't try and go there because that professor will take you down. Peter's trying to do this. Look at this in Matthew 18, verse 21. It says, then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how many times could my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? I bet I can do that 7 times. And Jesus answers him. He says, I tell you, not as many as 7, but 70 times 7. Now, what I like to say, and what we'll do with when we go through the whole Mark thing, is I want to look around the room. So Peter steps up. How many times? How many times should I forgive? 7 times? Am I going to get the star if I would do it 7 times? And Jesus looks at him and goes, no, when you do it 70 times, 7 times. So this persona of Peter goes from what? Look how me to, first of all, he's doing the math, right? Because you see that look in Peter's eyes of, okay, carry my 4 over here. All right, so he's got the math down. But then he's going, that's impossible. And Jesus goes, I know. He says, take a break, Peter, all right? You've worked hard there on that math. Let me tell you a little story. Peter goes, I can do stories. So he tells him a story. Read with me. Verse 23 says, for this reason, the kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king who wanted to settle accounts with his slaves. In other words, a reckoning. Back in these days, a slave was not just so this chattel slavery like we had in the United States and in Europe, where people just, we were kidnapped and we put them in slavery. Back in these days, you would sell yourself into slavery. It was more of a tenant-farmer situation. So you would borrow money from the king or from the landlord, and then you would serve him and you would pay him back, all right? And whatever was excess, you got to keep, okay? So when Jesus tells the parable of the one with 5 and 2 and 1 talents, he says, I'm going on a trip. Here's 5 talents. I'm going to go away. You do something with it. You'll pay me back when I get back, all right? That's kind of this arrangement, okay? So get the whole idea of Civil War slavery, get that out of your head. That's not what's going on here, okay? So he wants to settle his accounts. He's come back. He wants to settle his accounts with his slaves. Verse 24, when he began to settle accounts, one who owed 10,000 talents. Now, in the Greek, there is no word for 10,000. It's just the word myriad. So a myriad of talents. You say, well, what's a talent? A talent is 6,000 denarii. Denarii was the arrangement or the pay that you would get for working one day, all right? So understand this. If we want to use the 10,000 talents, so 10,000, 6,000 denarii units. So 6,000 days work times 10,000, all right? Are you getting a grasp of how big this is? If you do the math on this, if he worked 164,383 years, he could pay him back. Do you see the reaction Jesus gets when he says, this guy owes 10,000 talents? What's everybody thinking? Well, if you're sitting in the room and the guy goes, he owes him 164,383 years of labor, what's everybody in the room thinking? Everybody kind of laughs a little bit. Everybody's like, that's incredulous. It's like, that's too big of a number for me to even consider. So Jesus says, this guy, this king, settles his account with his slaves, and this one slave owes 10,000 talents. 164,000 years of labor. That's how much he owes him. And everybody's going, oh, wow, that's crazy, all right? Verse 25, since he had no way to pay it back, his master commanded that he, his wife, his children, and everything he had be sold to pay the debt, which is what they would do. He would simply sell this slave to somebody else who would give him some money so he would recoup some of his money. At this, the slave fell face down before him and said, what? Be patient with me, and I will pay you everything. Now, is the king going, oh, okay, well, I'll be patient, and if I am, he will pay me back everything? No. Again, the crowd is onto this. The crowd's going, right, like he's going to ever pay him back even remotely. It's like saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to get elected president, and I'm going to solve the national debt. $23 trillion. Yeah, we'll just pop that in. We'll fix that. No, you won't. And neither would he. But he asked for what? Be patient with me. What was he asking? What was he asking this king to do? Suffer long. I know I owe you. I know you are financially suffering because of this. I know I owe you. You deserve this, but I'm asking you to do this. I know you deserve it, but will you just suffer a little longer because of me? What if people literally asked you to be patient with them? How would that change the dynamic? Because most of the time we are impatient. Why? Because people don't ask. People don't go, hey, will you be patient with me? Because we get so upset because they didn't ask, be patient. We're just expected to be patient. And that just makes us even more impatient, right? It just makes us even, that anger stir up even a little more in us. And that's what builds. The impatient becomes resentment after a little while, doesn't it? Because we're being expected. But this guy, at least he asks. What if I went to Ashley and said, Ashley, I need you to be patient with me until I become a better husband. Holland, be patient with me until I become a better dad. How does that change the dynamic? Connor, be patient with me until I become a better pastor. How did that change the dynamic? What's the feeling now? If someone literally asks you, you're going to be more inclined to do it, won't you? Okay. All right. What would happen if we did that? You know, you need to be careful in ways that you create or fester the suffering in other people. You need to be self-aware enough to, you know what? I know I drive you crazy when I do this. Be patient with me. That'll go a long way. I guarantee you that will go a long way to solving a lot of these issues that you have. And you just suffer for a little while. Look what the king does. So this simple request, be patient with me and I will pay you everything. Then the master of that slave had compassion. This is the word splagnizomai, all right? It means we get our word spleen from this. It's something that comes from your gut that you go, oh, I feel so sorry for this person. This makes me feel sick inside because they're suffering so much. And I see this person, he owes me 10,000 talents. He would have to work for me for 164,000 years to pay this back. And he's just asking me, please be patient with me. And the king looks at him and has compassion on him. And it says he releases him and he forgives the loan. 10,000 talents. Done. That's a lot more than patience, isn't it? That's not patience. That's just going, let's just forget the whole thing. Let me tell you something. You're not the king in this story. Have y'all figured that out yet? You are not the king. The king, you don't fit in here. You see this cross? This is the king in the story. Jesus is telling this parable not so that you will go, I want to be just like the king and forgive a myriad of offenses and do all this. No, because you don't have it in you. Plus, he's going to do it anyway. That's not the point. How do you think this guy walked away? How do you think this man walked away? I've just been forgiven 10,000 talents, 164,000 years of labor, and I still wouldn't be able to pay him back. And he just said, forget it. He treated me as if I never, ever took out that loan against him, that I never created the offense at all. How does he walk away from this? And now, what does he do? Now, what does he encounter? You see, this is the beauty of patience. It loves the person more than your agenda. It looks at someone and says, this person that I love is more important to me than what I want or what I desire or what I demand in this moment. The question is, can you get there? If you've ever heard me do a wedding, I tend to tell this story. My very first wedding I ever did, all right? This is the rehearsal thing, all right, the night before. This one I used to try and see who could make the wedding director yell first, or which, because we would be the groomsmen up here. You know, groomsmen at a rehearsal are useless. Everybody with me on this? They're just trouble. You don't even want to have them there. You put a piece of tape on the floor and say, stand there and don't move, all right? Because the rest of the time, we're just goofing off and having a good time and seeing who can make the wedding director just absolutely lose her mind, all right? So I'm actually in charge of this one. My very, very first wedding I'm ever doing. And I'm sitting there, and we're starting to arrange everybody, and I'm trying to get the guys to calm down and be nice and don't have anybody get shot, okay? And the girls are doing perfect. They always do well. And we've got everybody staged. And the bride is here, the groom is here, and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, I see the back doors of the chapel open. And this elderly man opens the door, and he keeps looking down the aisle, looking toward the front. So he's doing this, and all of a sudden, and I see him at the back, and he's looking down the aisle, and I could tell he wanted to come in, but he kept looking out into the parking lot. And he's holding the door still. He's just standing there, and he's doing this thing, looking back and forth, going, man, I would love to be down there in the seats watching all this. But he keeps looking out in the parking lot. I'm going, what in the world is he doing? And then I saw her. His elderly wife in a wheelchair was being rolled up. And as much as he wanted to come down the aisle to sit here and watch his first granddaughter go through her rehearsal, he would not leave that door because the wife of his youth was still coming. You see, he loved his wife more than he loved his agenda. And that is the key to patience. You've got to love a person more than you love your timing, your agenda, your will, your desire. And that's what Christ did for us. Keep going with the story. But, this is a bad but right here, all right? Verse 28, but that slave went out and found one of his fellow slaves, all right? We had a king and we have a slave. Again, let me make this emphatic. You are not the king. You're the slave that was forgiven an innumerable number of sins. I don't care how pious you think you are, all right? Your pile is just as high as everybody else's pile in this room, all right? And the second you start comparing piles, your pile just gets bigger, okay? So just accept the fact that you've been forgiven a myriad of talents of guilt and loans and debt, all right? Because your king loved you that much. So he finds a fellow slave, all right? God has forgiven you a myriad. It should show in your face. Now you go around, there's somebody next to you who is another fellow slave who's been forgiven a myriad. But they just happen to owe you. They just happen to have done something to harm you. They've done something to cause you to suffer. All right, everybody with me? But that slave went out and found one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii. 10,000 talents, 10,000 times 6,000, 100. You see the difference here? He grabbed him, started choking him out, and said, "Pay what you owe." At this, his fellow slave fell down and began begging him, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you back." Does that sound vaguely familiar? Does that sound familiar? This one who owes 10,000 talents, the king is about to sell him and his family and everything else. He falls to his knees and begs him, "Please be patient with me, and I will pay you back." You know what? I'm not just going to be patient, I'm going to forgive it. Don't worry about it. It never happened. You leave the room. I don't know what emotion you have. I would be a little happy, all right? I don't know. I'm just going to go there, all right? I leave the room, and I find some guy that owes me practically nothing. And I choke him out. And he says, "Please be patient with me, and I'll pay you back." But he was not willing. Now, that's an important word. It doesn't say he was not able to do this. That's a whole different Greek word. That would be the word dunatos, all right? He wasn't able. "I'm sorry, I would love to, but I can't. I just can't. I owe this guy, and you got to pay me so I can pay him." That's not what the parable says. It doesn't say he was not able. It says he was not willing. Here's the question. What are you willing to do? You see, patience is not about your capability. Some people say, "Well, I just can't be patient." That's a lie. You can. Holland and I were driving this in Atlanta, which is always fun in Atlanta traffic because there's always that guy that happens to get in front of me. I don't know why. I've got like the God magnet puts people that will make me more loving in patience. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, "Come on." And I talk to people when I drive. So if you ever drive in front of me and you drive really stupid, I'm yelling at you. Just know that, okay? And I'm going, "What are you doing?" And so I'm thinking through all this patience thing, and I said, "Holland, if you were driving the car in front of me and I knew it was you, do you think I would treat you the same way that I'm treating this person that I don't know?" And she said, "No." I said, "Why would I not treat you that way?" She says, "Because you have a relationship with me." I thought, that's it. The more we have relationships with people and the deeper those relationships go, what happens to our level of patience? Now, what you need to do is allow this relationship to fuel the patience you have in all the other relationships. But this guy failed. He was not willing. On the contrary, he went and threw him into prison until he could pay what he owed. Why? After he'd been shown so much, why would he be so mean? Because he failed to appreciate the forgiveness he had been given. And let me be real blunt. The times when you're impatient, the times when you are not willing to suffer long on behalf of the people around you, is the times when you've completely forgotten the patience shown to you. It's as if this never even happened. When you are impatient with people, when you lose your temper with people, when you demand your own agenda, you demand your own way, you are going, you know what? I don't care about that cross. The cross never happened. I'm not going to let that affect me. But when you renew your mind to the love that you were shown, and then you come into a situation where things get a little trying and a little difficult, trust me, look, I'm with you. 3 teenagers, married, a dog, you people. But you know what? When I consider the cross, when I consider that what I was forgiven, it changes everything. And your patience, the level of patience and the level of love with which you give to other people will be directly reflected by how much you appreciate that cross. When the other slaves saw what had taken place, they were deeply distressed and went and reported to their master everything that had happened. Then after he had summoned him, that would have been interesting. Imagine this, now you getting summoned back to him. His master said to him, "You wicked slave, I forgave you all that debt because you begged me to be patient." Look at these words in 33. Shouldn't you also? Look at yourself. Shouldn't you also? In light of the cross, shouldn't you also? If you hold that dear in any way, shape, or form, shouldn't you also have mercy on others? Shouldn't that drive patience into you because you adore the person, the fellow slave, more than you love your agenda? You appreciate what you've been shown and you can't wait to show it to somebody else. Jesus says, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your beautiful works, your kalos works, and they may do what? Glorify your Father in heaven." You see, patience, these moments, they're just opportunities. They're not trials. They're not tests. They're opportunities for you to demonstrate what Christ did in your life. And when someone comes and goes, "I can't believe you were so patient with me." Red carpet. Let me tell you why I'm so patient with you. Because I have a God that loves me. And I have a God that was patient with me. And I have a God that died in my place to take on all the times when I burdened him and made him suffer. Why would I not do that for you? Shouldn't you also? This is God's expectation of people who claim the name of Christ, who claim the forgiveness of Christ. The expectation is there that you will go and do the same. One thing we say around here, one thing that's on the name tag, we want to teach profound truths, and we're going to expect profound lives. When you start showing patience, the patience you were shown, you will live a profound life. You will live a life that has significance. You'll have a life that matters. One of my favorite lines in any movie, in Pearl Harbor. Y'all seen Pearl Harbor, the Ben Affleck movie, whatever. He leaves America and goes over to England. And the guy said, "You Yanks all want to die?" He couldn't believe that somebody would come over here to fight with the British against the Germans. He goes, "Do all you guys want to die?" He says, "No, we just want to matter." When you start taking on what Christ has done for you and you start demonstrating in your life in this beautiful, profound way, you will start to matter. And that, my friends, is just worship. Let's pray. Father, I pray that each of us would just feel the weight of our own forgiveness. that each of us would feel the weight of the patience that you demonstrated for us. That on the myriad of times that we have offended you, we have wronged you, we've caused you to be patient so you don't destroy us.